welcome back to Holt Hanley Weather. As you might know, the Northeast winter has been, well, it's been pretty disappointing so far. So in this video, we're going to look at the 3 snowstorms that could be hitting the Northeast over the next week. Looking at this map right now, completely dry. And if you remember in my video yesterday, I said that low that moved up from the Gulf could be a possible nor'easter for the Northeast come Saturday, Sunday. Well, as it turns out, that low moved off into the Atlantic, and the snowfall numbers are going to be pretty disappointing. So this is what I'm calling the first snowstorm. It's really not much of a storm. 2 inches in Pennsylvania, maybe an inch in New York, possibly 2 inches in Maine. But overall, pretty disappointing for what could have been if that low had turned towards the Northeast. You can see this is Sunday at 1 o'clock, and snowfall amounts 3 inches maximum in New York. Some of the higher elevation places could see 3 inches, but majority of it is just going to be 1 inch of snowfall. Really not much to worry about. Although one thing to think about is majority of car accidents happen when there's been 1 inch of snowfall. And that's because people still drive like there hasn't been snowfall, but the roads can still be dangerous. So overall, that first snowstorm, pretty disappointing. Max 2 inches in Pennsylvania and New York. Maybe some 2-inch spots in Maine. But for the most part, disappointing. Now moving into Tuesday, you see completely dry. And then another snowstorm shows up on Wednesday afternoon. Now, as you can see, this snowstorm is still trending pretty far north, but the thing about these models is they change a lot. As you saw in that snowstorm last week, originally they were saying 20 to 24 inches, and what happened? It was like 5. So this could completely change by the 5th. Could move farther south, could bring more snow, could move farther north, and Northeast doesn't see any snow. But we are seeing some purple patches here. That means 6 inches of snowfall in some places. Northern New York, maybe 6 inches. Northern Maine, 7 inches. But again, this could change, and if it moves farther south, you can see the energy is there. So that's something to look out for. And then the big one is going to be coming on the 8th. Actually, starting the 7th at about 1 o'clock, you see there's some significant snowfall totals here. Most of it is to the north of the Northeast, but 11 inches, 12 inches, 13 inches. And then throughout most of the Northeast, you're still seeing some stuff. You see one pink patch in New York. That's probably in the higher elevation places, but that's something, maybe 6 inches there. Pennsylvania could be seeing 3 to 4 inches. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, also 4 inches, 5 inches in some places. So this is the snowstorm that I'm going to look at on the big scale. We're going to see where it gets its energy and what's going to happen. So moving in past the 8th, that has now moved out. And let's take a look at that on the continent, or the map of the whole country, to see where that storm really comes from. So as you can see, that low pressure, look at it off Florida. That was the one we were saying, if it had moved up into northeast, it could have been a nice storm. But watch it. It goes way off into the Atlantic right away, and it's gone. And then the second one that we were also saying, that one could maybe move up into the Northeast. It does hug the coast, but then it moves too far out. It has 997 millibars, so it's an alright storm. You can see it's heavy rainfall in the Atlantic, but, well, we don't really care about that much. And then you see those snowfall in Vermont, New Hampshire. That was that first storm we looked at. Kind of a dud. Maybe some snow in Maine, but it moves off into the Atlantic. That one is gone. Now, I want you to look at this low pressure that is sitting right above Montana-Wyoming border, right here. As we move through into Monday, you can see that moves south into the northern parts of Texas, and then it does something interesting here. It splits in two. splits in two right there. That is Tuesday afternoon. So the more northern low, that's the one that's going to move up into the northeast, bring that storm that we saw was a little too far north, but could be bringing 3 to 4 inches in some places. And then the other one moves south of Texas. So watch that first one. It's going to bring a wintry mix and some snow to the Great Lakes area, rain in the southern locations. And then that's going to move through. You can see it's still trending a little north. But then that other low, the one that is south of Texas, keep your eye on that one. That one is going to move right above Louisiana. And think about the circulation around a low pressure system. That's going to be bringing in air from the warm, moist Gulf and bringing in a lot of moisture into this low, and also warm air advection, which basically causes storms, because that leads to rising air, clouds, and you can see it strengthen right here. You can see it's completely picked up some energy, and then it's going to hold on to that energy and keep moving north. And that drops to 987 millibars, 984. That's the one where we could be seeing 12, 13 inches of snowfall. So let's take a quick look at this on the 500 millibar map. So you see a couple of troughs move through. On the second, that trough moves in off the Pacific Northwest. So it starts off with some energy because it has plenty of moisture up there. Drops most of that on Washington, Oregon, snow in the Rockies. And then right here, splits in two. You see that more northern trough is going to move up to the northeast, while the more southern trough dips all the way down into the Gulf. That's where it's getting its moisture. That's where it's getting warm air advection and storm development. Right here, you see it start to move up. That's when it really started to strengthen. That more northern trough, that one's long gone. But this one keeps moving up, and it's moving up along the Gulf Stream. So it's this entire time it's moving up, it's picking up even more moisture and even more warmth. And then it just hits the northeast, 12, 13 inches. Again, this is pretty far out, so take those numbers with a grain of salt. Quick look at it on the vorticity map. Let's move forward to the second. Moves through Arizona, New Mexico, splits in two. You see that purple patch of vorticity, that one's gonna go hit the northeast, again trending a little north, while this more southern location dips down into the Gulf. Really, wow, you can see those 55 positive vorticity. That's pretty nice. And then it continues to pick up some vorticity as it moves up the Gulf Stream, and then eventually hits the northeast. So let's look at what kind of numbers we're talking about for that storm. Again, 1 to 2 inches for that first snowstorm, 3 to 4 for that second snowstorm, 7 in Maine possibly. If it trends south, again, could see something there. And then this is when it hits. It is February 7th. This is next Friday. Could be seeing 3, 4 inches in Pennsylvania and Maine. But again, we want this one to move south, because seeing those spots north of New York, 13 inches. That's a pretty good storm right there. And again, it picked up that energy from the Gulf and then along the Gulf Stream. That's what's driving this storm. So we're going to keep our eye on that. Let's take one quick look at the temperatures during that time. So this is starting on the 7th. That's when the storm starts to move in. Pretty cold, 26 in New York, 17 in Vermont, 15, 9 degrees in New Hampshire, 2 degrees in Maine. And then the bulk of the storm is going to hit Saturday the 8th right in the morning. So 7 in the morning, that's when the bulk of the storm was moving through. And good news for the Northeast, the temperature map is showing that it will be cooperating. If you remember that storm last week that was predicted to be 20 inches and then ended up being 5, it was the temperature that ruined it. On this map, the temperature is still cooperating. So let's hope it stays that way. Let's also hope it trends a little bit farther south. I'll keep you updated on this storm as we progress in time and the models get to a higher resolution. I hope you learned something. I'll keep you updated on the storm, so keep checking back, and thanks for watching.